We're going to finish up this chapter talking about annelids, phylum Annelida, or segmented worms. Go ahead and write this down. This should be fairly short. You do not need to write any of this down, but there are 3 classes of segmented worms. You can see the crazy names there. The first one, earthworms, mainly terrestrial worms. Terrestrial means land worms. They live on land, not water. So that first one, Olicheta, is terrestrial. They will live in fresh water, like rivers and lakes as well. Next one, we have leeches, mainly fresh water. A few salt water, some terrestrial. And then bristleworms, mainly marine, which is ocean, salt water. Write this down. Characteristics. They are invertebrates, no backbone, shouldn't be a surprise. They have bilateral symmetry, which you can only cut them or fold them right down the middle. They do sexual reproduction. If you remember from our dissection, that clitellum, that band-aid looking thing, is actually their sexual organ, or it houses their sexual organs. There are a few that can do asexual reproduction, like regeneration, but most of them do sexual. And many worm species are hermaphroditic, which means they have boy and girl parts. Earthworms, you don't need to write anything. Over 100 segments. So this, a reminder, is the head end. That's the tail end. So we got the mouth and the anus. This is the clitellum, which is going to hold the reproductive organs. We wrote this down once, so I think you're good. You don't need to. But head equals anterior. Tail is posterior, so towards the rear end. I'd write this down. What do worms eat? They're going to eat soil, usually with decaying plant parts, leaves. When we dissected our earthworms, you probably found in the crop and gizzard and the intestines, you found some dirt. It was dirt. So you don't need to write this. Going to go from the pharynx. The esophagus would be the throat. The crop, which is storage, gizzard grinds, intestine absorbs the nutrients, and then the anus is for the waste. I'd probably write these down. The crop stores food, gizzard grinds up the food, and the intestine absorbs the nutrients. Probably old news here, but it probably wouldn't hurt to write it down. I'd probably write down closed circulatory system, meaning they have vessels, veins, a heart. I would also write this down. Oh. How do worms take in oxygen? Through their skin. They're going to breathe through their skin. So, like many things in water, breathe through gills, we breathe through lungs. They're going to breathe through their skin. Amphibians will do this some as well. But you notice earthworms need to be damp at all times. They need to be wet because it's easier for oxygen and carbon dioxide to go through their skin if they're wet. A dry earthworm is most likely a dead earthworm. You don't need to write this, but I kind of mentioned this. Worms are hermaphrodites. They have boy and girl parts, male and female parts. That is all.